Good evening and welcome to episode 74 of the Jacksonian. I'm yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I have with me as the host of College Football with Sam, Samuel Recker, as we'll be going over our take on the world of college football heading into 2025. Let me tell you something, folks, it's going to be a wild ride. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Good. Good. Happy to be on here. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Well, and for those who want to know a little more about you, try to tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So I started this channel in 2020 during the COVID season. I was a little bit bored. I just decided one day to start talking about college football for fun. Didn't do it consistently until April 2021, June, May 2021, around the beginning of summer, really where the preseason begins to morph into something that's active and not just dead. And I don't even know when I got good at it. Like, because looking back in 21 and 22, there were some things I got right, but also some things I was very wrong on. I mean, every year's just gotten better and better and better here on college football with Sam. You can find me just by searching up college football with Sam, by the way. It should be the first thing that pops up in YouTube search, on Twitter, where I have an account too. It may even pop up if you just search on Google. The YouTube channel may pop up.
There you go,
So
man. I mean, that's a perfect way to do it. And just kind of like start the show off. How are you feeling about each of the first year coaches going into 2025?
So the coaches that were first years last season or that will be firsts this year?
First this year with their new teams.
Okay. Um who are those teams? I know that you have I don't think you have you have Barry Odom at Purdue. I know
Yeah.
that for a fact. Um Not going to lie, I don't really know the others, if I'm being honest.
I know, right? It's just like new coaches, and it's like there's been a lot thereof for this year. Well, for last season. I mean, I know like Frank Wright took over as the interim coach for Stanford. Scott Frost is the new head coach for Central Florida. He's in his second stint. I mean, there's a lot of coaches for second stints. Rich Rod at West Virginia, that's a good
Yeah,
one.
that's a second stance.
Oh man, and Jake Dicker's at Wake Forest. I mean, there's just a lot of slim pickings, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say that the one I probably feel the best about is Rich Rod at West Virginia, just because he brought in a lot of winners from his time at Jacksonville State, and also because I think all the other new coaches either have severe limitations or, in the case of Scott Frost, I don't think they're all that good, for example.
Yeah. But yeah, the Big 12, we're gonna wait and see what happens for Central Florida. I don't know if it's gonna work out for them or if it's not gonna work out for them, but maybe it could be like Bobby Petrino in his second stint at Louisville, where they wind up having a Heisman Trophy winner at Central Florida. So we'll definitely wait and see.
Maybe.
But the hottest seats for 2025, we know Luke Fickle is on that hot seat. How you feel about like some of the other coaches that are on a really hot seat? Like, there's Brent Venables and Mark Stoops, but are there any other coaches in your mind?
I think that if Brian Kelly, Mike Norvell, Lincoln Riley at LSU, Florida State, and USC, respectively, I think if their win total is low enough, I do think people would try to get out of their contract or fire them in at the administrative level in those respective schools. I know that for LSU, it kind of seems like playoffs or bust. For USC, it feels like they need 8-9 wins. They need to go over their 7.5 win total. And for Florida State, you have to make a bowl game. I think anything less than that for those schools. For LSU, not making the playoffs For USC, only winning 7 games or fewer. And then for Florida State, failing to go to a bowl game. I think those, I don't know for sure if those are death sentences. But I think they certainly very well could be death sentences for those coaches. And then for Michigan State's Jonathan Smith, I don't know if I'd put him on the hot seat. It's similar with Lincoln Riley. I think they're on warm seats where they don't need to make this, they don't need to be drastically good relative to their university's expectations to stay to be safe at least for another year, but they do need to improve. They can't have a losing record again at Michigan State, I think, for Smith to have confidence.
Well, and also, Mike Lotzley, I think, is a good candidate as a hot seat coach because I mean, like the guy that hired him is now at SMU.
Yes, yeah, and that was a big loss. I never knew this before, but he used to be the AD at Georgia during Mark Richt's time, and he got fired due to, I think, being caught drunk driving with another woman who wasn't his wife. Just resigned, was forced to be fired. Reportedly, was like a wickedly good fundraiser, and that just fits pretty well, I think, with SMU. They clearly have deep pockets. They're in a good environment with just location. I think they have a good staff. But Loxley, yes. He's the only Big Ten head coach I'd put squarely on the hot seat. I think if they don't go bowling, and possibly even if they don't have a winning season, he's gone, is my feeling of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's like the only reason why Mike Lotzley, I feel, is a head coach is because the fact they worked for Coach Saban. I mean, take out the fact that he worked for Coach Saban. He didn't even have he had 0 to little any wins at New Mexico.
Yo, it was horrible. I think at one point he had single-digit wins and 40 losses. It was a disaster.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean, I don't think I'd be hiring a guy with that kind of a record, but that's just me.
Well, a lot of people credited him for Tua Tagovailoa in 2018 when he was there for a season as the OC. But at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know if he's head coach material. I mean, last year was bad. If not for USC choking away that game, they would have went 3-9, 0-9 in Big Ten Conference play. Most of those, a lot of them being blowout losses.
It's insane. I mean, it's like the only conference win is against USC. That's it. And like the non-conference, you lost to Northwestern.
They got blown out by Northwestern.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, it was horrible. I remember watching that game Friday night in utter disbelief that Northwestern was, recovering fumbles, making Billy Edwards look like he was reading a foreign language. It was crazy. But yet at the same time, in hindsight, I'm not surprised. Hindsight's obviously 2020, but yeah, it's like what you said. What does he have that makes him a good head coach? And after last year, you can't say much.
I mean, like Mike Lotzley, I could compare it to Josh McDaniels. Whereas, like, when he was back working for Bill Belichick, people forgot about how bad he was at the Broncos. Then he goes back to the Raiders. And I told a lot of people this. I told a few friends of mine this, that he's not going to last long at the Raiders. And especially when I heard, like, it was one of those pregame speeches where he had, like, a Giants coach or whatever, or who later became the interim head coach. He played for the Giants, and he was like, "Oh, well, use that Super Bowl victory where we upset the Patriots as motivation. For those that say the impossible can't be done, you can use that to your advantage." And then like McDaniel's like, "Don't you ever use that euphemism in my presence." It's like, the hell, you asked him to make a speech and then you get mad at him about it. It's like he got asked if the dress made him look fat, but and he got like the answer he didn't want. Like
Yeah.
but with significant others, of course.
Yep.
It's like, my God. I mean, at least Mike Loxley's not overly emotional. That I can give him that. I mean, it's like, but plus, if he got overly emotional, I'd have something. But it's like he doesn't really have anything to me give other than his like coaching records. I mean, he's a good dude, but it's just he's just not head coach material.
No. No, I don't think he is at all.
And there's one question that's really boggling my mind. So we know, like Jimbo Fisher, when he went to Texas A&M, everybody thought, oh, he's going to get him that natty. Nope, he's not getting him that natty. He's not getting him that SEC title. And now we see like Brian Kelly. We see Lincoln Riley. Everybody's expecting big things. LSU's expected big things. Oh, they're going to get a conference title. They're going to get a natty. Not. USC, back to the good old days with the Pete Carroll days. Good things are coming. Happy days are here again in LA. And so far, it's just seeming like they're falling short of
Disappointing.
expectations. So, in your eyes, Sam, who is more the disappointment, Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley?
Whew. Wow. That's tough. And the reason it's tough is in terms of recent trends and records, you would totally say USC because at least LSU stayed around that 10-9 win zone. USC's went from 11 to 8 to 7, and they've kind of gotten worse every year. But to be fair, USC moved to a new conference. LSU didn't. And honestly, when you look at, for say, last year, for example, in the power ratings, USC finished ahead of LSU. Um, I also think that on field, I'd have to go with LSU because they play in the tougher conference and they've won more games. So I'd have to go with them on the field. But if you're talking about the direction of the programs, LSU to me still seems tight. They seem desperate. They seem wound up. Getting in all of those portal guys, recruiting has been, I actually think on an average basis, Kelly's classes have been worse than Ed Orgeron's. Well, quote me on that. And if I'm wrong, correct me. Anyone who watches this, including yourself. But intuitively, I don't think I'm wrong there. His classes have never been top 5 at LSU. Early, it seems like this one maybe could be, but it feels like they've lost momentum. And I think USC is a better staff overall. I mean, USC's made change over change over change. They're not the same staff that Riley brought in. They have some similar guys, but there's been a lot of changes made there, especially on defense. And for Kelly, you could say the same thing too, but I feel like USC has kind of shocked themselves into a restart where they hit the restart button. They're going to try D'Anton Lynn and that defensive staff and the strength and conditioning coach out for, this year. And as long as this year isn't a total disaster, even if they get 7 or 8 wins only and don't finish ranked, I still think he has another year. For Kelly, it feels like it's this year or we hate you. Maybe they can't fire him because of the buyout, but I feel as if I honestly feel like Kelly slightly has been more disappointing. If you don't want to speculate at all, then it's Riley. But if you want to add a little bit of fun and a little bit of speculation for the near future, I think it's Kelly.
Well, I think honestly, if when LSU hired Brian Kelly, I told a couple people that you're not going to see LSU win the big games in the postseason. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll win the big games of the regular season, I'm sure, but they can't win the big games of the postseason. And that's been my biggest gripe with Brian Kelly. Because it's like he could get it done with Notre Dame. He could get him a BCS bowl victory. He could get him a New Year's Six bowl victory. He could get a playoff victory. And when he was coaching Cincinnati, I mean, I'm not gonna fault him for not being able to beat Florida in the 2010 Sugar Bowl. Nobody's beating that Florida team, but you couldn't beat a 4-loss Virginia Tech team in the 2009 Orange Bowl. That's a bad sign right there. I mean, like, yeah, Cincinnati was with the Big East 08 and 09. And yeah, Notre Dame was doing great in 2010s, 2020, and 2021, but they couldn't get it done in the postseason. And I don't think LSU, if they do make it to the playoffs, they're not going to win a playoff game as long as they have Brian Kelly. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean they expect national titles, and I think USC does too. But LSU fired Les Miles after a 2-loss start, and USC kept Clay Helton around forever. So, like, if you factor in, I think, expectations, then certainly it's Kelly who's been more disappointing. I mean, USC sure was picked to win the Pac-12 in 2023. They were not picked to do so, I don't think, in 2022, though maybe I'm wrong. I know LSU came out
They
of
weren't expected to win the Pac-10 in 2022.
Okay. Thanks. In 2022, I know LSU kind of came out of nowhere, but then the following year they were expected to be a major player. And this past year, them and USC, I think, had similar expectations. The expectations for LSU, I think, were a little bit higher than that of USC, and they both disappointed in their own way. LSU kind of strip-teased everyone outside of the 0-1 start, but after that, it looked like they were top 10. They destroyed Arkansas. They were building momentum, and then it all fell apart. And they got blown out by Alabama, A&M, kind of marched on them at the end, and then they lost to Florida by double digits, that was gross. USC lost a bunch of close games, and I almost find that to be more redeemable. Like, you lose all your close games, these are problems that can be fixed, and 3 out of 4 of LSU's losses came by double digits with a good O-line that will probably be better than the one they have this year.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Tigers. And, like the last time LSU has won a season opener was in 2019. And I believe that was 2 months before the start of Disney Plus. Disney Plus started on November 11th, 2019. And the magical 2019 season for LSU started on August 31st, 2019. So it's like that, it's like, oh, my mistake. 2.5 months before the start of Disney Plus.
Wow. Honestly, I mean, LSU's a proud school. Last 3 coaches to be there, Orgeron, Miles, Saban, they've all won a natty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the expectation, and I don't know if Kelly will do that. I mean, at the rate things are going right now, looking at how Freeman's building Notre Dame as opposed to how Kelly's building LSU, if they were to both stay for 5 years and the trends that we've seen in the past, like especially 2, because you got to give Freeman grace for that first year, as you would with any coach, unless they inherit this awesome situation. And to a certain degree, Freeman did, but they still won 9 games. It's not like they went 5-7 or 6-6. The trends say that with current recruiting, Notre Dame is going to match LSU's raw athletic talent, if not surpass it. And that's bad, especially when you left Notre Dame, if you're Kelly, saying that you left there because you couldn't win it all there.
Yeah. That's bad. It's just disappointing for a lot of people, but for us, it's not surprising that Kelly can't get it done. But,
Yeah.
but the topic of Marcus Freeman gets us another question. These three coaches have not won a natty. You got James Franklin at Penn State, Dan Lanning at Oregon, and Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. Who is the most likely to lead their team to a national title before the decade ends? Like, do we see 2, 3, or only one of them lead their team to a natty before this decade ends?
Is there just for clarification, is there a reason you excluded Sark from the list at
Oh,
Texas?
how could I forget Sart? That's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you for making sure that Sart's on that list. Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Okay, so Day, obviously Sweeney, Kirby, those are the ones that have. DeBoer hasn't, but yeah, why not include him?
There you go.
Yeah, see. I'm pretty sold on the concept that Penn State's going to be the best team in America this year, and that at times it may not even be close. I'm sort of sold on that. I don't know if it's correct, but I like the staff. I like the roster. It does not have the same raw, absolute ceiling that Texas, especially, and I think Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson as well do. Just because with the caliber of athlete those schools recruit, if everything were to go right for them and everything were to go right for Penn State, well, yes, they would be better than Penn State. But that rarely happens. Rarely does everything go right for a team. I mean, even LSU in 2019 returned a lot from that 2018 defense, and they got worse there. I think like the offense just got so much better that they became that team. So I'm convinced that in a world of realism, unless lightning in a bottle hits someone, and that could happen, that Penn State's number one. So I think James Franklin, consequentially, will win it all before the decade's over. And that's for 2025. So then we have 26, 27, 20. We have 4 more years left.
Mm-hmm.
So one's checked off. I've been pretty strong about the fact that I think Ohio State's going to have a down year this year, but that next year they'll win it all again. And I think Day is a playoff genius. So that's 1. So now we have 3, and we still got DeBoer, Sark, Lanning, and Freeman. I'm pretty convinced Lanning's going to win it all at some point. He may win it all in 26. 26 is a year where, based on current depth charts, Oregon in particular is going to return a lot, and I would expect Notre Dame to as well. I'd expect Ohio State to if they don't win it all. If they do, different discussion. I would expect Texas, and I'd expect Texas to bring back a lot that year too. Even bring back Manning, unless he has this amazing year. It's such a loaded question that you asked, but I think Franklin for sure, based on this roster and coaching staff. I think that Day is set up to win it all in the next 5 years. I'd say the same thing of Kirby. I'd say the same thing of Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart's the best head coach in America. So if I'm picking Day to win it all sometime in the next 5 years, and I love Ryan Day, I also have to pick Kirby Smart. So got 2 guys left, two slots for 4 guys. I love DeBoer. I do. It's going to pain me to say this, isn't it? Because I feel like I feel hypocritical. I think DeBoer is the best coach not named Day or Smart.
Ooh.
And there's a world where, based on what he's done with less talent, there's a world where I could see him as soon as this year or the following year unanimously viewed as better than Day. I think it would take longer to surpass Smart, because Smart, the job he had last year was phenomenal. But I'm gonna leave DeBoer off for now, because I do think he got left with a little bit of a poorer basket, still very wealthy basket, but worse than what some people would think of in terms of an Alabama roster. And the SEC's tough. You beat up on each other. The schedules are hard. And you have Kirby Smart and Steve Sarkisian in your conference, and both have much better recruiting grounds, and they're more established, like as in terms of tenure, and that matters, I think. I'm also going to leave Freeman off the list.
Okay.
Because I think that going from Al Golden to Chris Ash is a major downgrade. I love Marcus Freeman, but in that Ohio State game, the only reason that wasn't a blowout is because I think Freeman has instituted mental toughness and they didn't quit. And Ohio State was inconsistent all season long, even in two of their playoff games against Texas and Notre Dame. It's not that I don't think they played good games. I think they just, against teams with great defenses, naturally wouldn't score more than 30 points. Like that was just their limit. It was installed. It was a feature, not a bug. But Ohio State should have destroyed them. So Notre Dame still isn't quite there. I think they're on the way to getting there. And Denbrock will probably stay there forever. And Denbrock is an X factor, non-negotiable caliber OC. But I don't think that he has yet the talent that Lanning does or that Sark does. So I would go with Lanning and Sark. I would go Lanning, Sark, Franklin, and then the remaining two, at least one, goes to one of Smarter Day. It's interesting, too, because with what USC is doing with Riley, recruiting-wise and NIL-wise, and how they've upgraded their staff, do you think it's insane for me to think that if they do well this year, we could be talking about Riley ahead of some of those coaches in terms of winning their first title?
It's a possibility. Anything can happen in the crazy world of college football.
Yeah, I mean, with that class they're bringing in and the staff they have, and they kept Lynn from going to Penn State, and Penn State was Lynn's alma mater. Penn State clearly was willing to pay a lot of money. That's why they got Knowles for $3 million. Yeah, I would not be shocked if Riley won a title before before 80% of those new coaches. I wouldn't be shocked at all. Like Sark or let's say Sark or Franklin win it this year, or one of the three who's won it prior. That's one out of the five, possibly. The following year, with how many of the good programs return a lot, let's say that it's more likely than not Day or Kirby wins it, and maybe some of the others can too. But then in 2027, when that USC class has had 2 years, when their defensive staff now is every single player on that roster has been coached by them, and they've been under Tremaine Carroll's tutelage for 3 seasons at least. Why couldn't USC win it all that year? Or even boldly, depending on how good they are this year, why not 2026? Depending on how much they bring back, of course.
Well, on this side, see what each of these coaches can bring, especially for the future. I mean, I kind of feel like Lanning can bring that natty for Oregon in the next few years. I mean, like it felt like we were going to see it 2024, but then they got smacked off the face of the earth on New Year's Day and the grand day of them all against Ohio State. Franklin, I don't know why, but I feel like Penn State could lose to Ohio State again, and then everybody's
Absolutely,
gonna,
they can.
and then everybody will throw the baby out with the bathwater and get their takes and say Franklin needs to go. He needs to be fired tomorrow. And then Penn State will step it up in the postseason, and then everybody will move on from being mad at Franklin, just like how they did with Ryan Day. Ohio State lost to Michigan 4th straight year. What happens? They go on a huge run. It's like it's like when you screw up something, your family is like mad as hell and they're not going to take it from you anymore. But then when you got like something really good and they see like you're doing all the right things here and there, they're kind of like, "Oh, I'm not mad at you anymore. I'm over it now."
Yeah. No, there's a world where Franklin can lose to Ohio State again, and then they go on and win it all.
Oh yeah.
Even without beating Ohio State for a second time. There's a world where they lose to OSU, maybe OSU even wins the Big Ten, or maybe they don't, but they reach the playoffs, and then someone else takes them out, and then Penn State wins it all.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe they rematch with Ohio State and beat them. I mean, I don't know, but
Oh, that'd
that
be
is their
cool.
toughest game by a mile for Penn State, is that Ohio State game on the road.
Oh yeah, because that's what's gonna happen. And let's take before we end the show. You've been really excited about what Jonathan Smith has been bringing to Michigan State. You cited what he did at Oregon State, for example. You've been really excited about his recruiting and how he's been doing in East Lansing. Give us more on that.
On my thoughts on Jonathan Smith,
Absolutely.
I think that they're doing. I mean, they're doing I'd say an above average job on the recruiting trail right now. The average recruit they're bringing in is a mid-level, high-level 3-star, but they've gotten some 4-stars, and it's good to see them accumulate bodies there. I think that they need to establish they ideally should want to recruit better, but at least it's a start. The class right now is better than their class last season. More importantly, I think, is that they have a staff of proven assistants who have coached up several kids into the NFL. Like Damian Martinez was developed by Keith Benappa, believe is how you say his name, who was Oregon State's running backs coach. I mean, Jim Melchizik, their offensive line coach at Oregon State. Well, he developed a first round, I believe, offensive tackle, or maybe it was a guard, that left in the 2024 NFL draft, and several other offensive linemen like center Tanner Miller from Michigan State, who was an all Big Ten caliber player last season. Their wide receivers have been good. I mean, people remember Silas Bolden, who went to Texas, developed at Oregon State. Jaden Gould, or maybe not Jaden Gould. I might be. I think I'm confusing him with a corner at Syracuse who was committed to Nebraska for a while. Yeah, I'm definitely confused. But there's another wide receiver at Oregon State who was pretty good in 2023. Developed at Oregon State. I mean, they made DJ Uiagalelei look good.
Yeah.
They did. I mean, that offensive staff did. And then his DC at Oregon State, Trent Bray, didn't come with them. But he hired Joe Rossi from Minnesota, and Rossi's defenses didn't generate a ton of sacks, but they did a good job of keeping everything in front of them, did a good job defending the run. You saw this year that Michigan State was much better at defending the run than they were last year. And overall, they were better on defense. It was like immediate impact, even though talent-wise, they probably got worse because they lost Derek Harmon to Oregon and Simeon Barr to Miami. And those D tackles were, I mean, Harmon got picked in the first round. Barrow went undrafted, but still went to Miami and did pretty well for a college player. So, I mean, clearly that prior staff under Tucker was misusing the heck out of talent. And I think the staff does a much better job. I have them graded as one of the better staffs in college football, not just the Big Ten, but I have them like they're better than Michigan staff-wise. They're better than USC. I think they're better than any of the lower level teams. I mean, they're up there with the top end Big Ten staffs. So you're talking Oregon, Ohio State. You're talking about, I think, Indiana, if you want to project a lot, which I am with Indiana. The problem is, I don't think they have the type of recruiters that those schools do. So developmentally, they're up there with those schools, but they don't recruit as well as a staff, naturally, which makes sense based on where they were at Oregon State. And then they're starting out with a lot less. So I think patience is a rule with someone like Jonathan Smith. You got to be patient, but I would also pair that in saying you can't go 5-7 the way they did last year, where you got blown out by Rutgers and you didn't get a sack against an Illinois O-line that nearly gave up 40 sacks, and you got blown out by them too. You got to be better than that. And I think they will this year. I think Aiden Childs will be a top 20, top 25 quarterback, and they should get better everywhere except for running back. But
Oh yeah.
everywhere else, they should be better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got a feeling USC's going to be trying to get Jonathan Smith if things don't work out with Lincoln Riley in the future. Like,
That would be smart as long as Smith probably hires some better recruiters to the staff, and or maybe that's not a problem if their NIL is good as I think it's going to be in the future. And also now. I mean, a big part of the reason why they have that number one class is I genuinely think they can pay they can beat anyone in a battle. I mean, they beat Texas and Georgia, I believe, for Mark Bowman because they paid more than they did. And that's insane. You don't pay more than Texas to keep a recruit. That's been unheard of the previous 2 seasons.
there you go. Because like I'm excited to see what's coming to East Lansing, and I'm kind of just on the fence to where things are going to go with Lincoln Riley and USC. And honestly, I hope things work out for them. We'll wait and see, but I don't know. I hope things go well for them.
I'll leave you with this in regards to USC. When you have this preseason energy, and when you recruit at that level, and when you're making that many changes, and yes, you went 7-6 the prior year, but on the field, that team was better than it was the prior year. They just had to face a tougher schedule and they had to travel several thousand more miles. So consequently, they were out of gas a lot more than they were the prior year. And yet they were still more physical. Oh, they didn't have Caleb Williams either. Like their overall team was better, but you didn't have a first round QB who could squeeze out some wins and mask a bunch of stuff. Like their O line in 2023 was not good at all. Their 24 O line was way better, but they had a pro style QB who probably is not a first round or in Miller Moss compared to round one, pick one, and Caleb Williams, who could make things happen behind anything. So the optimism is they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. They have a lot of preseason momentum, and this momentum is not generated by the hype machine. This is not Oklahoma. It's not LSU. It's not even Washington. I think Washington's getting a lot of hype around their QB. Michigan. Michigan has way more preseason hype than USC does. USC is like at plus, they're at such a low level in playoff odds, it's almost unfathomable. They're at a plus 500 odds to reach the playoffs. You bet $100, you get $500. And with the schedule they have, and with I know they're only bringing back about half their production, but a lot of that production was older guys who were not NFL players. So some of those guys can be pretty easily replaced. Um, I think that maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they're hoodwinking everyone, but I don't think they are. I mean, they can pay money to get any of the recruits they want. They clearly have good relationships. It's not just money. They're recruiting these kids well too. And now that they have a full year to work with Maava, and he's had some games under his belt where they didn't with Moss, and they bring in some good transfers and they return a lot of their second stringers on defense, who probably will be better than last year's first stringers because the defensive staff's in year two, so they get double the time to work with them. I really like what I see. And the schedule lines up perfectly. I mean, most of their road trips, all of them in conference, are against teams with vastly inferior talent. And then Notre Dame, that's the tough road trip, but they have a rest advantage over Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I think, is 5 or 6 games removed from their bye when they play USC. USC's removed 1 game from their bye. And they tore up Notre Dame's secondary last year. Notre Dame ran for, I think, 9 yards per carry on them, and it was still a tied game in the fourth quarter. So if USC's defense just improves by this much, and then the QB play regresses to Lincoln Riley's mean, they should beat Notre Dame with what Notre Dame brings back.
Oh yeah. It'll be huge to see what happens with Notre Dame going in 2025. I like to see if they'll end that natty drought before the decade ends. I've got a feeling they can with Marcus Freeman. I mean, they were never going to do that with Brian Kelly or Charlie Weiss or any of the coaches after Lou Holtz. I mean, you really think Bob Davie was going to do that? No, no. It's
Yeah.
like all I remember him as the guy that called games on ESPN2 with Mark Jones and, the New Mexico head coach. That's it. That's all I can remember Bob Davie as.
Oh yeah, he was at New Mexico for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Freeman, I think a lot of teams can have their year in 2026, like Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame. They all lose a bunch this year. And then with how young their rosters are by depth chart, minus Texas. Texas is a little bit older because they've had a more balanced recruiting job. Where, they actually have the most players taken in the past 2 years of the draft, and yet they're probably the oldest team of that bunch, which I think probably speaks to their development, if I'm being honest. But a lot of those teams return a bunch of guys, and I still love Notre Dame's staff, even though I don't think it's as good as it was last year. And Freeman especially is young compared to all of those coaches. Like him and Lanning especially are super young, and therefore I think they have the most room for growth. And I love what they have on the O-line. And O-line is such an important position, especially now when I've read articles and heard coaches say they think it's in short supply. Notre Dame is great offensive line play in abundance. So I wouldn't be shocked either if he ends that streak. It'd be a welcome surprise.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will say that does conclude episode 74 of the Jacksonian. And for those who want to learn more about college football, Sam, what have you got going on in the coming weeks, months ahead of the 2025 season?
Well, we're still going live Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, 6 p.m. As much as we can, as much as reasonable. We're releasing like 3-4 videos per day right now. They're all a bunch of clips of the live shows. Takes a lot of time and energy, but I like doing it. We're going to continue to do prediction segments, top 10 players at each position. We'll see what's in store for the fall. There's a lot of things I want to do for the fall that I don't know if I'll be able to get to, but why not join along for the ride? I mean, we've gotten better every year. The quality's improved. My research is improved. We're only getting better here. I mean, I'm not satisfied with the quality of my show at all. I'm not satisfied with anything. I mean, we're only going to get better from here on out. So join us while you can. And you'll always be able to, but just join us right now, because then you'll get to see the progression, and I think that will be pretty cool. There was a time where I wasn't even on screen. Like, you didn't see me. I was just a guy behind a PowerPoint with a bunch of words and
Yeah,
occasionally
I
pictures.
like what you got behind you. It looks like something I see on a news channel. I love it.
Yeah, I can't. I'll actually play it right now. Like, you see it moving here. Only reason I can't do that is it takes up a lot of CPU energy, a lot of my computer, so it'll bog my computer down. And my computer's a good computer, so it's a lot, but it can
Nice.
also be distracting when it moves. So it's kind of convenient that it takes that power away from my PC. It uses too much of my processor because now I have an excuse to turn it off besides that. But I love it. Yeah. Thank you. I like your background. What's that? Is that a floating Jets helmet?
Yes, it is. It's a floating Jets helmet, and I've got the SEC Big Ten mini helmets behind me. And what I have right next to me are the ACC and Big 12 mini helmets.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. I want to get those someday, and maybe make my background look almost more like yours in a certain way, where it is. Oh, your camera just went off.
Oh, I dropped something, so it's like that was my pen.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, like your background with all the helmets and stuff and the bookshelves. That's something where I'm thinking that might be the ideal background for me in the future. Uh, I'm in school. I have things to pay for, so I can't quite do that yet. But I love what I have right now, and
All
yeah,
right.
you guys should subscribe if you haven't already, and then
Agreed.
he's linked to the Discord server and my Patreon page. Jackson has, so thank you very much for that. I
And don't
appreciate it.
forget the merch. Like I gotta get that cool merch from College Football with Sam. I mean, I gotta get that. I gotta get that awesome shirt. So it's like I need to get something like that from the merch store on threadless.com. And if you want to hear what Sam has said on college football with Sam, check him out on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Amazon. Tune in, you won't want to miss it. And of course, you can check me out on Crimson Tide Live Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the Alabama College Show, where Jeffrey and I take your calls on the Crimson Tide, including Monday's edition, where we had on the man himself, Mark Rogers, joining us to discuss his take on the 90s Crimson Tide in promoting disputed national champions, historic reset of the 1990s, and what he believes the Crimson Tide can do going into 2025. And also, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979, where we are 321 subs away from that magic number 1,000. We'll need all the help we can get to 1,000. I mean, we're definitely getting closer. And you can check out the updates on the Jacksonian, Alabama, the voice of college football, and the once week calls on the Paul Feinbaum Show, where the weekends are full of surprises on Jacksonville CFB on @/Twitter and on Instagram and threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. But if you don't feel very comfortable about X or Instagram, check us out on Blue Sky at Jackson Johnson 97, where a friend of the show, Mike Debate, says where the skies are blue. Some say the skies are overcast, but I say to each their own. And with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss another video or another episode whatsoever. And we will see you soon. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe, stay cool, stay away from that heat.